conference number 7390015.
Please enter your access code followed by the pound or hash sign. Access code or phone number you have dialed is incorrect. Please check your credentials and try again. You entered 33490943343. Please re-enter your access code followed by the pound or hash sign. If you are the host, press star now. Otherwise, please enter your PIN followed by the pound or hash. Thank you. You are the only participant in the conference.
Is das good? I guess I'm being the only. Okay. The number is 515-739-1015. Yes. And the conference number is 349-094-343. Yeah. Okay. I'll leave it on because sometimes. Yeah. No, it's new. No, that. Yeah. Do I know now when I'm going to be speaking Sunday? Ich weiß noch nicht. No. We're holding over here with important inyanim here. Yeah. It's always connected. So good Chodesh, everyone. We are holding over here in Parshas Toldos, and I know we're in the middle of Tammuz, but yet we're all learning Parshas Toldos. We're going through the entire Chumash, finding the Moshiach thread in all of the Psukim. We're holding in Perek Chafei Pasuk Chavav. We spent quite a few classes on this pasuk, and we continue today. So the pasuk is speaking about, because it's really, really amazing that I think that the time we're holding right now is in the world. I mentioned this in the past few classes, and in this class it's going to highlight it even more, is exactly at this pasuk. It says, first the older brother was born, that's Esav, and the Achar Ken Yatsa Achiv, and then his brother comes after him. The Yadai in his hand, Oichezez is holding on, Ba'akev Esav, in the heel of Esav. Vayikra Shema Yaakov, and then he calls his name Yaakov. Yaakov is called Yaakov. He follows his younger brother, and then the pasuk says Yitzchak was 60 years old at this birth. So now, what's the meaning over here of the younger brother coming and his hand is holding on? So again, Esav is born first, very hairy, red, and they call him, that's why Esav meaning from the word finished. And the other brother is holding on to his, and the little, smooth little brother that looked like a baby, not like a finished child, is holding on to the akev, to the heel, tightly, firmly. Now that is very, very, very important today, Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. We know that these 2 months in the year, Tammuz and Av, is where Esav, the Zohar says, it says Esav has power in these 2 months. That's why we find that Rome, which was the descendants of Esav, destroyed the temple in the months of Tammuz and Av. Really, it says that their power is in the 3 months, Tammuz, Av, and Elul. But the month of Elul somehow was retracted and went back to Yaakov. But the first 2 months, Tammuz and Av, which represent the latter half of the summer, in the sense that you have 6 months, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, and then you have Tammuz, Av, Elul. Because 12 months in the year, 3, 3, 3, and 3. So the second half of the summer, Tammuz, Av, Elul, would have been Esav's months, and as it's explained in Sfarim why that would have been that way. And we know that we need to take these 2 months back. Tammuz and Av, eventually when Moshiach will come, they will be a big celebration. They'll be Yomim Tovim. Why is that? Because Yaakov is holding on to the heel of Esav. It's actually this power that Yaakov takes a firm grasp in the heel of Esav. That's the flipping power. That's where he flips Esav and everything associated with Esav from darkness to light, from unholy to holy. And so that's why on Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, it's really special to be learning this. And as I've been mentioning, we are now in the midst of experiencing this in the world, where Yaakov is flipping Esav, which means that Rashi says, what does that mean? Rashi says that you have the kingdom of Esav, which is the kingdom began with Rome, which later translated into all the Western countries, reaching its final completion in America. We can say the Soviet Union, they were the red. The Bolsheviks their color was red, which is Esav. And that was flipped over also in the Chodesh of Tammuz, when you see that the powers of holiness, first the 6th Chabad Rebbe, who defeated the forces of the communist regime when they tried to crush him on the 12th day of Tammuz, and he completely overpowered them to the point that many years later they completely fell apart. And interesting, that actually happened in the month of Av. If you know that there was in Russia, in 1991, there was a coup where they were trying to reinstate communism. There was like a back and forth at that time. No one knew what was going to happen. It was very scary. For like a week, it seemed like there might break out civil war in Russia. It was very, very frightening. And then it was resolved, and I think Yeltsin got back power again, and then they all completely remodernized Russia, and they undid the Soviet Union. So when was that? In the month of Av. Who defeated them? Without any shadow of a doubt, it was the power continuation of the previous Chabad Rebbe, which continued. Now we're celebrating Gimel Tammuz. We're connecting to the 7th Chabad Rebbe. So the Rebbe definitely was the one who, with his shuluchim and with his tremendous work of the powers that you see in this famous story where the Rebbe himself took down Stalin on that Purim night. You see that the Rebbe actually predicted the Russian collapse and the collapse of the Soviet Union even way before it happened, to the point that when Professor Branover met with Gorbachev, and he told him later after and he told him what the Rebbe had told him, that he should prepare the Jews in Israel, he should prepare homes to settle thousands upon thousands of olim, people that are going to come up. Gorbachev was so shocked, he says, at that time I wasn't even thinking of it. So the Rebbe had already affected it b'pnimiyus. So that's the idea that Yaakov, the Yodoi, the power of Yaakov, Oichezes is holding on by cave Esav and the power of Esav to flip it over. That's Esav. Clearly, its culmination was in Russia, and then there's 2 parts to Esav, as discussed in different places. The wicked side of Esav was the Soviet Union. The better side of Esav, even translated into the United States of America. But even over here, there is a final transformation of the government, which is taking place right now, where you see the powers of Kedusha are taking hold of what was previously not necessarily holy forces that seem to have been working in many ways anti-holiness and anti-Jewish and anti-Israel and anti-things that are important for the ultimate redemption. And then just about a year ago, there was a tremendous supernatural miracle of the transformation, what we're seeing. So Rashi says an interesting thing on Yodei Chazed by Cave Esav. What that means is siman, this is a sign. She'ein zeh maspik ligmar malchusai, that he's not going to finish to conclude his kingdom until he will get up and take it from him. That means his hand, Akev means the heel, Esav's heel. So Esav is still, his heels are still there, it's still the bottom. technically he should still have many years or some years left over till he expires, till his kingdom expires, and yet the Messianic kingdom, the Moshiach kingdom of the Davidic kingdom of David HaMelech is takes it away from him at the last, when Esav has not yet finished his kingdom. So it almost seems like there is an overlapping between Esav's kingdom and the kingdom of Moshiach. So how do you understand that? What does that mean? If Moshiach is already here, and if Moshiach is already revealed, and he's already and it's already a Jewish empire, and an empire of holiness, so why is that called Esav hasn't finished? He did finish. So it just occurred to me just an hour ago while I was looking at this, it occurred to me what this means. It means that the very last phase of the kingdom of Esav, so Esav is still in power, yet bipnimius, internally, it's not Esav in power, it's Mashiach in power. In other words, Mashiach is ruling through the powers of Esav. Both. And where did we see that? He took a hold of the powers of Gorbachev in Russia and made them dismantle the Soviet Union. And today's days, all those forces that tried to stop Judaism in Russia are gone. And what's thriving in the previous Soviet Union are so many Jewish communities are springing up, and Balei Tshuva, and people returning into observance, and so on, and Chadarim, and so on. So that's on one hand. And then finally, what we see in America, that the very, very government itself and the president and the like, who, as we spoke many times, has so many of the symbols of Esav, seems so much a replica of Esav himself, yet he is doing everything. He's behaving like a real mensch in the sense that he's helping in the furtherance of the redemption and bringing about the redemption, with the relocation of the U.S. Embassy and with the pulling out of the Iraq thing, and with bringing denuclearization in the world, which is what is necessary for Mashiach. So he's doing all the work, but as you can see, he has, and everybody's against him, and yet he's having super success. The media won't admit to it. They're trying to see whatever they can to say. But his success that he's having is not his success, it's the success of Moshiach. So this is the unbelievable. We're learning it over here. Yodoi oichezes, it's the hand of Kedusha. Oichezes is holding on. Ba'akev, in the akev of Esav, to transform, to change. And who's that power? So here's an interesting thing. It says, initially, Esav is a redhead. Initially, Yaakov was supposed to have a twin, a redhead. And that twin was supposed to be David HaMelech, who's also a redhead. It says about David HaMelech, so it says in a Sefer Paneach Raza, which is a great Kabbalistic Sefer. Where is it over here? No, I'm sorry, not Paneach Raza, Gal Yarazia. David HaMelech was supposed to come out from together with Yaakov, to be Yaakov's twin. And it's when he was a redhead. The only thing is that David HaMelech would have been, it says David HaMelech, when it describes him as a redhead, it describes him as someone with beautiful eyes. Yofei Anayim, with beautiful eyes. By the way, we're always talking about the relationship of the Rebbe to David HaMelech. Now there's coming Gimel Tammuz. Whenever you have anybody describing, people who are trying to give a physical description of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and then they try to catch on to something that really struck them in an audience, are the eyes. Everybody who says the eyes are like so captivating, the eyes are so... See, David HaMelech, it says, Yofei Einayim. Why? The Reb Tzaddik HaKoyim from Lublin says that this is a tikkun on Leah, the grandmother of David HaMelech, the grandmother of Moshiach Tzidkenu. And she, it says, had her eyes, Einei Leah Rakois. And it seems from the way the pasuk describes the verse is that Rachel is beautiful, and Leah would have been beautiful, but there's something with her eyes. So there needs to be a tikkun in the einayim, in the eyes. David HaMelech is the ultimate tikkun of the einayim. Anyways, he was supposed to be the twin. And if that would have happened, we would have had, what does that mean? I'll be pashtus, what does that mean? What does it mean? So again, he doesn't say it over here, but if I can lend my only, is that the redness represents the side of Gevura. And the side of Gevura is the side of that leads to all kind of darkness and klippa and all the like. Because it says that the unholy is yoinek, derives most of its energy from the left side. The right side is chesed. What's the difference between chesed and Gevura? Chesed is revelation, and Gevura is concealment. So on the right side, God is revealed. When God is revealed, then the klippa, the unholy, can't develop because they only thrive through in the absence of godly revelation. So on the right side, they're very weak. They're much stronger on the left side. So there needs to be a tikkun on tzad hasmoyel, on the left side. That's when we know, for instance, the Chanukah menorah we put on the left side. So to make a tikkun on the left. In any case, if that's the case, so Esav, you see, he's from the left, and he's red, full of gevura, and full of corruption. And he's the source of all the powers of evil that are in the world. But in truth, and who's going to make a tikkun on that? It's David HaMelech. So David HaMelech is misaking the left side, the gevuras. That's why David HaMelech himself is red. So it should have been already born immediately, Yaakov together with David. But for whatever reason, if that would have happened, there would have been a tikkun already then. And as we know, that it would not have been a thorough tikkun if we would be masakin things in their source and we would not allow things to completely manifest and then do the tikkun in the detail. See, when if anybody we're sensitive, we realize throughout the entire Torah we're always talking about missed opportunities. We're always talking about if that would have happened, we would have had Moshiach. And if that would have happened, we would have had Moshiach. And if that was an amazing moment. So then why didn't it happen? And the answer wasn't meant to happen. But then why are you saying it could have happened? The answer is there's something called klalius and there's something called pratis. Klalius is the general, the potent, or one of the ways of seeing it is the seed and then the full-fledged plant, the full fruit or the plant. So if you make a tikkun in the seed, then automatically everything that's going to grow from it is already good. But, so had the tikkunim been made in their potential beginnings, then everything that would manifest would be good. But, problem is, it wouldn't be so thorough, because we would not have addressed every particular element of expressed unholiness and converted it. Now that all the unholy came to fruition and fully expressed itself, and we enter as Jewish people, as the forces of holiness through Torah and mitzvahs, we enter into all these pathways of darkness, every single tunnel, we've been down every single path of the unholy, and within there converted, worked, first obliterated, fought the klippa, and then obliterate, and then finally even transform. So then there isn't any possibility ever for chas v'sholem any kind of wreckage or any kind of darkness, because the tikkun is through and through and through incomplete. And that's the meaning why David HaMelech could not have been born at that time. Instead, Esav was born, and the redhead who brings about all the tzaras. But eventually, at the end of days, Yodai Oichezes Ba'akev, the hand, the holiness will eventually, David HaMelech, in other words, till when will this happen that Esav comes out? Till the end. In the end, Kedusha catches up with Esav. And that's the hand, that's Moshiach. And that's the meaning of Yodai. Yodai comes from the word Yud. The Yud, we know, represents Chachma, represents the first initial thought. The Yud represents the machshava, the thought, the very beginning of something. So Yodai means the beginning, quintessential beginning machshava thought is to do a tikkun in Esav at the end of time. Through who? Through the power of David HaMelech, which is the power of Moshiach that vanquishes Esav. So Yodai Chezes holds on by a cave at the very, very end. They will take over the Malchus after him. But the point of it is to understand that in that moment, what we're talking about right now, the moment of the current moments where Kedusha is flipping over the Klippa at right now, this is the very, very deep plan that God had from the very, very beginning. That's why it's so awesomely exciting to realize and to be aware of what's going on. Yodoi, the beginning of Kedusha, the very initial thought, already envisioned and is planned. That's what Rabbi Tzaddik says. Ba'akev, at the very end of Esav, at this transformation that's taking place at the very end of time. Now, Esav's Akev in general is very, very, very potent. As a matter of fact, his heel has more power than his entire body. The reason his heel has more power than his entire body is because we know that Esav was born a Jew. He's not like Yishmael. Yishmael has a non-Jewish mother. His mother is Hagar. Esav has a Jewish mother. So Esav is a Jew. He's called a Yisroel Mumar. He's a Jew who is, you might say, a rebellious Jew, but he's a Jew. Because his parents, Avram and Yitzchak, were already Yisroel, were already Yid. They're not called Yisroel. Avram and Yitzchak are not called Yisroel because Avram and Yitzchak did not have it in them yet that all their descendants are going to be Jewish. You see, Avram's descendants partially were not Jewish. Yitzchak's descendants also. But by Yaakov, but from terms of themselves, they were Yisroel. Yaakov's being Yisroel has become so much his essence that it cannot be anybody coming from Yaakov that's not Yisroel. In other words, he and his Jewishness have become completely one. And just like we understand that from a cow will only be born cows, and from from any other animal will only be born that particular animal, and the same is also from a human, there will only be humans. From a Jew, which is a unique type of human being, there can only be Jews. So the children have to be Jewish. It's an essential thing. Esav, however, was different, because Esav is a child of Avram and Yitzchak, not of Yaakov. So for him, even though he is Jewish, but he doesn't have that for his children. So what happens? But he did have, what he did have of being called a Jew, that he was a Jewish neshama, is that he had powerful neshamas inside of him. Very, very great souls. But those great souls were contained in his heel, in the bottom of Esav. Why? Because those potent powers of Kedusha, holy souls, were buried at the very, very, very lowest point of his being. Why? Because since Esav was a wicked man, and his life was all about his corruption and his wickedness, his Kedusha meant zero to him in his life. It was like his heel. So by a Jew we say the opposite. By a Jew we say, we speak about Avoin, David HaMelech says, Avoin akevai, the sins of my heel. So by a Yid we say that if Chas v'Sholom a Jew does an Avera, it's called Avoinoi she'adam dosh ba'akeva, that a person steps with his heels. Because Chas v'Sholom, the power of Yetzer Hara and of unholiness and of evil that there is in a Jew, doesn't make up his primary consciousness or his primary being. His primary being is Kedusha. At the bottom, there is a little layer of possible impurity and unholiness. That's by a Jew. By Esav, who is, even though he himself was a Jew, but he's not yet the complete product, and he was a wicked person, so his holiness that he had was insignificant to him, and that's why it was at the bottom of his existence. It was in his heels. Who was there? The great sages, Rabbi Akiva, the neshama of Rabbi Akiva, who is the yesod, he's the foundation of Torah Shabbal Peh. Rabbi Meir comes from Neron Kaiser, one of the great, the one who wanted to destroy the Beis HaMikdash. Stam Mishnah, general Mishnah, is according to Rabbi Meir. We're talking about Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Meir. These are the sources of all of Torah. And these powerful, potent neshamas are buried in the heel of Esav. And that's the meaning of V'yodoi oichezez ba'akev Esav. Yaakov holds on to that Ekev to extract those souls, to elevate those souls that are at Esav's heel, at the very, very bottom of Esav. But as we said earlier, Yadai, the main yad, the main yud, the main kavana, the main purpose of Esav is ba'akev, is in his heel. So it's two things. First of all, Yaakov, the powers of kedusha, extract the souls of holiness that are in Esav's heel. Number one. Number two, in the end of days, Moshiach comes and he hits Esav at the very, very Ekev of Esav, at the very heel and the end of time, to make a transformation of Esav himself. Last week, I had shared with you, and we've been reading this for a nice couple of weeks, but I would like to add a little more insight on this medrash, and this is, we're going to finish this today. It's all regarding the same idea. The medrash says that a nobleman asked the Chachamim, the wise men of Soluni, Mi toifes hamalchus acharenu, who is going to take the kingship after us? He was a nobleman. He was a noble officer in charge over in a certain district in Israel. He was a ruthless, wicked person. He was teasing the rabbis and saying, "We're so powerful, we're so strong. Who is going to take the kingdom after us?" The rabbi said, either Rabbi Meir or Rabbi Gamliel, as we learned. They answered, and they said, he didn't answer. He took a clean sheet of paper and he wrote the pasuk, this pasuk. V'achrei Cain yatsa achiv, and afterwards his brother comes out. The Yada Yecheh. You want to ask me who's going to take over the powerful Roman Empire? How? Basically, what the guy on the simple was saying. You see our power; it's endless. After us, no one will be able to take the kingdom after us. We're so powerful. And as I discussed last week, he was also saying, and if you think it's you guys, we have. By the time we're done with you guys, you won't have any power left to do anything. So what does he do? He writes on a paper. He takes a clean piece of paper, the Medrash says, and he writes, Yada Yechezes ba'achrei Cain Yada Yechezes ba'keves. So where do you see in these words that Yaakov is going to take the Malchus? Okay, it says Yaakov is holding on to Esav. Ba'keves, but where do you see Malchus? So I saw something really, really beautiful. But again, you see, when in these little things, there are tremendous secrets. The words, what he writes down for him are the following words. Va'acharei Cain, and after Cain, Yatsa Achiv, his brother, comes out. So in these words, Va'acharei Cain, Yatsa Achiv, is emphasizing that not just as Yaakov coming out, but Yaakov is the new emperor, he's the new empire, he's the new kingdom that will follow Esav's kingdom. Weird, how do you see it? So here's an interesting thing. We know the biggest secret in the world is Moshiach. It has always been a secret. It has always been a mystery. That's why we find in history that the pathway of Mashiach's neshama in the world comes from the strangest places. We see again and again and again that there's always some scandal in regarding to Mashiach's identity, Mashiach in the world, the neshama, the path, beginning with Tamar and Yehuda, where there was some kind of what seemed to be an immorality, and there Peretz is born, who was the father of the family. And then later on again, you have David and Bathsheba, and this repeats itself. And Boaz and Ruth, and again, each time, and Yishai also, they accused him they accused him that David HaMelech is a mamzer, or whatever it was, because of something that happened over there. We discussed it on Shavuos last year. So there is again scandal after scandal. And the reason is because the Eibishter keeps Mashiach a mystery in the world. It's all hidden, because it's so powerful. So it must be shielded, it must be protected. We discussed this a lot in earlier classes. And where do you see an amazing thing? What's the Hebrew word for secret? The Hebrew word for secret is called soid. Soid means secret. Let's take a look at the word soid. Spell out the letters. Samach is samach. So if you have the letter samach, you only see the samach, but there is, if you say it out, you see, or you write it out, the word samach, you'll find a mem and a chaf. Samach. So mem chaf. Vav is a vav. Vav. What's the word? Dalid is a lamed and a saf. Dalist. Dalid is really a deles. That's the way it's spelled. A door. A dalid looks like a door. So dalid is dalid lamed saf. So now let's erase the first letters. Samach, vav, and dalid. Erase. And look at the inside, the hidden letters of secret. What's inside? Samach, you have the mem and the chaf, and you have a vav, and dalid is a lamed and a dalid, a lamed and a not dalid, a lamed and a saf. When you look at these letters, you have the word malchus. That means the secret, the ultimate secret that's hidden inside, is malchus, is the kingdom. Whose kingdom? The ultimate kingdom, Moshiach's kingdom. Because malchus we know is given to David the Melech. All other kings are all preliminaries, all preparation to the ultimate kingdom is the kingdom of David HaMelech, the kingdom of Moshiach Tzidkenu. So you see from here that the inside of secret is soid. Okay, once you have that down, we're not done yet. In order to see the great secret of this pasuk, we have to realize something else. The word soid itself, samach vav dalet, is gematria 70. Samach is 60, Vav and Dalet is another 10, 70. So Soid is 70. Now, which other word is Gematria 70? The word Cain. Cain is also 70. Chaf, Nun. Nun is 50, Cain, Chaf is 20. So together it's 70. Where does it say this? An interesting idea. How do you know there's a shaykhis? The Degel Machne Ephraim, the grandson of the holy Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Ephraim of Slabodkea. So he writes an interesting thing. On the pasuk in next week's parsha, Parshas Chukas, Al Kain Yoimru Hamoishlim Boyu Cheshboin. It's poetry that's discussed that's the pasuk taken from next week's parsha Chukas. It says regarding the war of Moab and Sichon, it says Al Kain, therefore, Yoimru HaMoishlim, those who give parables, referring to the prophets, they will say, Bayu Cheshbon, come into the city of Cheshbon. Okay. But Chazal, on this pasuk, the sages play with the words, and the sages say, Al Kain Yoimru HaMoishlim is referring to tzaddikim. Tzaddikim are the Moishlim. Why? HaMoishlim be Yitzram, those who conquer their Yetzer Hara. Al Kain Yoimru, they will say, HaMoishlim, those who rule, those who conquer their Yetzer Hara. What will they say? Bayu Cheshbon, let's go do Cheshbon. Let's do a Cheshbon of the world. Let's make a calculation. Cheshbon is a name of a city of Moab, but it also means a calculation. That's what the Gemara says. So the Degel Machne Ephraim says, hear this. He says, Al Kain. Al Kain. Kain, he says, is Gematria Soid, secret. Al, so it would be like Al Soid. When there is a secret, Al, again, you're changing the word Cain for Sod because Cain and Sod is the same gematria. Al Soid, when there is a deep secret, Yoimru HaMoishlim, the big tzaddikim, when they want to reveal a big secret, who's the Moishlim? Those who conquer their Yetzer Hara, they're called Moishlim. So the Moishlim, the parable givers, the tzaddikim, when they have a secret, they say, Bayu Cheshbon, let's make the gematria. Cheshbon is gematria. In other words, the biggest secrets come out of the gematria. Al Kain, that's what the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov says. Al Kain, therefore, Yoimru HaMoishlim, the tzaddikim say, Boyu Cheshbon, let's go make a Cheshbon, let's go make a matri. If this is the case, that Cain, according to that, is symbolic and represents the concept of soid, of secret. So now let's go back to this pasuk. Acharei Cain. After means Cain. After Cain. What follows Cain? What's Cain? Cain is interchangeable, we just said. Let's change back Cain to soid. Because soid and Cain are the same thing. So now, then it's as if it would say in the pasuk, acharei soid, after soid, because soid and Cain are interchangeable. So after soid, what does it mean after soid? After soid, which is secret, the hidden letters that come after soid. What's the hidden letters after soid? The mem and the chaf of samach, the second vav of the vav, and the lamed and the saf of the daled of soid. So those are the acharei Cain. That's after the letter soid. What's there? Malchus. That's the Malchus of Yaakov Avinu. That's the Malchus of David HaMelech. Acharei Cain. That's where the Malchus is hidden. In other words, it doesn't say openly over here that Yaakov is going to take over the kingdom from Esau. But it's there, it's hidden, it's embedded. So says the Kedushas Tzion. It's the Rebbe Tzion of Bobiv. In his take on this little incident, and he discusses some more in it, but I'm not going to get into that. And here's another thought regarding this scuffle of Yaakov and Esav. And we asked the question, why is he taking out a clean sheet of paper? What's this idea of Yaakov holding on to the feet of Esav? So one of the Ruzhiner Einaklach, Rabbi Yisroel of Chortkiv, the Ruzhiner had a son, Rabbi Davidel Chortkiv. He had a son, Rabbi Yisroel of Chortkiv. He was a great Chassidic Rebbe. So he says something really interesting. He says, remember, we go back a few to the beginning of the parsha. Parsha's told us. It says that Rivka was very concerned about the intense experiences of labor pains, or not just labor, pregnancy pain that she was experiencing. It was very violent, and she didn't know what to do, and she went to the Beis Medrash to find out. She went to ask the Navi. She went to speak to Shem to find out. Lidrush es Hashem. And he answered her, Shnei goyim bebitnech. You have two powers in your womb, and that was Yaakov and Esau. So Rashi says on something, Ushnei Le'umim, Rashi says about Shnei Goyim, don't read it Goyim, nations, read it Gayim, because it says with two Yuds. Two Gayim means noblemen, powerful people. Who are these? One is Yaakov, and one is Esau, the descendants of them. Rabbeinu HaKadosh, and the other one is Antoninus. And they were friends, and they were very wealthy. And Rashi says, what was their wealth? That even in all 4 seasons, they always had radishes and lettuce. We gave a whole class a few weeks ago called Radish and Lettuce. We spoke about the radish and the lettuce. Here's another interesting insight. So Rashi says that these two tzaddikim always had radish and lettuce at their table. So the question, he asks a simple question, and why would Rivka care about that? I mean, why is that a consolation term? Oh, now she's fine. From her coming these two Rebbe and Antoninus that always have radish and lettuce on the table. What's the deeper? There must be a big secret over here that we should be consoled. The interesting thing is Rashi brings this from the Gemara. The Gemara has a continuation. The Gemara says the Amamar, because the sages have said, because the master have said, after the Gemara says Antoninus and Rebbe, the Gemara Masechtas Avodah Zarah Daf Yud Aleph, the Gemara says after it says that it was Antoninus and Rebbe, these two great people, so the Gemara adds the Amamar, because the master said that radish machata chasamacho, radish helps digest food, it helps cut the food down, and lettuce is bahapa chasamacho, has the power to convert the food. So it's basically, these are what do you call it, assistance, or they have a better word for it, digestive, what was a good word for it, things that help in the digestion. So therefore, it's not stam they had radish and lettuce. It's important for a meal to always have radishes and lettuce, because it's good for digestion and so on. And the Gemara says, because radishes cut the food, and lettuce is bahapach the food. Changes it, converts it. So, and again, the question is, how does that come in over here? I mean, just because you're mentioning radish and lettuce, you're telling me that radish and lettuce is important. Like, what's the significance in that? But he brings an interesting thing. He says we know that our interaction with food is purposeful. God did not create the human being in this weak state that we should be so needy, and every few hours we should be in need and have to eat food, because he couldn't have created us another way. It's because we actually do a powerful tikkun in the world by eating. And we know that the world is a mixture of good and bad, and when we eat, we do a process called the birur, a purification. But that's only if we're eating correctly. What does it mean to eat correctly? It means to eat correctly means with one of two possible types of kavanas. It all depends of a person's attitude and a person's approach to the food. And it can be one of two ways. One way is that you're using it, it's called kol masecha l'shem shamayim. That means that you're eating not for the sensation of the food, but for the intention of the strength you will get from the food, and your intention is to serve God. Then you're elevating the food that you're eating. The second intention is that one has godly thoughts in the eating itself. In other words, one can appreciate the secrets involved with the food and so on and so forth, and that's even a deeper way of eating. They can see Hashem in the foods themselves, not just using it for a purpose of serving God later, but they're actually godly conscious in the eating itself. And that's the difference, as it's explained in Chassidus, between B'chol derachecha de'ehu, in all your ways you should know him, which means even though it's your ways, it's not a mitzvah, it's your ways, it's your physical activities, you know him, that's the higher way of serving God. The lower way of serving Hashem is kol masecha, all of your actions, even though right now it's your actions and you don't have any godly content in it, l'shem shamayim, you're doing it in preparation or to assist you in serving Hashem later, which will come after. What's the difference between these two kavanas, between these two intentions, in terms of its impact on the food that you're eating? The difference is as follows. If somebody is eating with the intentions to serve Hashem later, then what they're accomplishing is they're separating the good from bad. Because the food is coming to you and enticing you and seducing you, to eat it just like a glutton without any godly intention. That's unholy. And usually what that does is it coarsens a person and makes them less godly sensitive. I mean, you're absorbing the outer shell of the food. The chitzoni is the klipa. When you're eating it with the right purpose, you bust the klipa, you crack the shells, and you're taking out kedusha. So you're rejecting the klipa, you're rejecting the negative, and you're taking the positive. However, if you're a tzaddik who can eat with the higher level of eating, in which they can have godly intentions in the food themselves that they're eating, doesn't reject the unholy, but converts the unholy and transforms. Elevates even the ra that's in the food. The whole thing, meaning to say there's no waste. The whole thing is converted and elevated. And that's the difference between these two people. When the Shem told Rivka, you have children, and they're going to be Rebbe and Antoninus, they're going to be great people, he wasn't saying so they're rich people. That was not what her consolation. Her consolation was that these are people that are going to be living a moral, ethical, and godly purpose life. Both of them. But Rebbe is a tzaddik. So Rebbe is able to eat food with the higher intentions. And that's why when Rebbe passed away, Rabbeinu HaKadosh, he lifted his 10 fingers. He said, he was such a wealthy man, and it says his table was filled with all the delicacies. He lifted his hands and he said, I did not enjoy anything of this world. Never. I didn't have any benefit, even for my small pinky. Meaning to say nothing. What does that mean? His entire worldly experience was purely divine. Nothing personal. Nothing God. Nothing. Antoninus was a Roman emperor who was he was a philosopher. He was a person who had a higher purpose in his existence, he also lived for a higher thing. But he wasn't like Rebbe. So he ate, his purpose was to be strong, to be able to do the right thing in his life. So his birur that he did was separating the good from the bad. That's the difference between the radishes and the lettuce. Radish, the Gemara says, cuts the food. Cutting of the food means it separates, chops it. It chops the good from the bad. The lettuce converts the food. That's the meaning. It converts the negative to the good. And that was her consolation. So, but what do we see from here? The higher power of tzaddikim is the conversion of the unholy. Yaakov Avinu, Rebbe's grandfather, particularly Yaakov, has that power of not just vanquishing evil, fighting evil, destroying evil, but actually transforming it. And that's the significance of Yaakov holding on, as we spoke earlier, Akev Esav. It's not just beating Esav, it's taking Esav himself and turning him into an ally for Kedusha. He said, just like Rebbe, he can take the food itself and convert it. Yaakov's power, it's Yodoy Chezes, to convert, to elevate, and transform even Esav. And that was the meaning of why, as I told you here, give me a second. That's why he took a clean piece of paper, because the clean piece of paper represents that the world at that time, there's only going to be clean. In other words, until Moshiach comes, there's nothing that's chalak, there's nothing clean. Everything is a little bit mixed. Once Yaakov is done with the transformation, it's going to be chalak. Chalak in Yiddish means glat. Glat means there isn't any imperfections. The world is going to be completely perfect. Everything is going to convert to holiness. Like we're seeing now, even just this week, we saw tremendous effect at that a very evil person, and the media and people can't make peace with that, but but he's a tyrant and he's human abuses and so forth. Yeah, and he's in the process of transformation. So instead, celebrate that. Celebrate that he's in the process of transformation. Yeah, but how come he's letting him get away? Yeah, well, first he's going to destroy his nuclear weapons, and he's going to become more involved with civilized world. His economy is going to be doing better. His people are going to applaud the fact that they've grown. He won't have to lead his country with oppression because he's afraid, by keeping them all constantly oppressed, because he's afraid they're going to overthrow him, because they're going to embrace him because of the tremendous economic growth that they're going to have. And it's going to be a transformation. But they're terrified to say that. Knows the idea that evil can convert to good is, and the truth is, people are saying Chamberlain, it's very different. Very different. There was appeasing a wicked person. Here there's no appeasement. Here we're opening up, stretching our hand for you. And it could be 75 years ago, whatever the time when that was, evil was not ready to be converted yet. And now, since we're already at the conclusion, when evil is now at the point where it could and is and had already been converted. May we see the complete conversion of the unholy to Kedusha. Now, in conclusion to that,